Hey guys, hope everybody's doing okay. What I want to do right now is give a quick review slash overview of balancing equations so you guys can work on some of your homework problems and figure out how to do these. So once you get the hang of it, it's all pretty easy, but it all goes back to some good nomenclature, foundational skills, and some attention to detail. So let's take a look at this one example. This is actually in your packet on page 7. Okay, so go to page 7 and go to the top, and it should have this example here where it says Intro to Balancing Equations. Write a formula equation for the following. So a lot of this is really going to boil down to, can you take something in the word form and put it into an actual chemical equation? All right, so it says solid potassium nitrate. So what I like to do is put my, I like to write my ion symbols right above the actual name itself. Helps me write my formulas better and eliminate silly mistakes. So potassium nitrate, potassium I know is K+1. And nitrate is NO3 minus 1. So automatically, if you don't know what those are, you are getting the whole thing wrong within the first 5 seconds. Okay, so we need to know what those ions are and how to write formulas. It's heated to produce gaseous oxygen. Okay, so I know oxygen gas, oxygen's by itself, that's O2. And solid potassium nitrite. So potassium is K+1, and nitrite's NO2 minus 1. Okay, so let's write the formula and the equation. So solid potassium nitrate, okay, KNO3, solid, is heated to produce. So to produce is my yield sign, and heated is delta H. It produces gaseous oxygen. Oxygen's diatomic, so it's one of our 7 diatomics. It's by itself, so you put O2. And potassium nitrite, so that is KNO2 solid. Okay, from there we go on and we would actually balance this, which we'll do, I'll balance a different one later. Okay, but that's the starting point here. So write your equation and then you go about balancing it. This is really step 1 of every problem we do for the entire unit now. Okay, so we'll get the hang of it. Next one on your paper is this one. So it says ammonia gas is reacted with oxygen. So ammonia gas tells me what it is. Reacted with oxygen in the presence of a platinum rhodium catalyst to produce, so there's our yield sign, nitric acid. And it says all acids are aqueous. Okay, so let's take a look at it. Ammonia gas, NH3, is reacted with oxygen. So is reacted with is just plus oxygen, O2. We could assume it's a gas. All right, in the presence of a catalyst to produce, so there's my yield sign. Platinum rhodium is just, platinum is PT, and there's a dash here, so you just do PT dash rhodium, RH. That's not one of the elements you have to memorize, so you can look it up. To produce nitric acid, you should know nitric acid is HNO3, and it says all acids are aqueous, so it's AQ. All right, so if you don't know nitric acid, wrong. Then you can't balance it and this whole chain reaction. So again, nomenclature is important here going forward. On page 7, you guys have some rules. So I'll make sure you have a second to jot those down. So you can write those down on page 7 right now. And a lot of these were kind of addressed in the balancing equations video you watched and lesson you received. So this is just for your reference to make sure you remember some basic things. All ionic compounds add up to 0. Make sure you pay attention to your 7 diatomic elements, and we don't worry about subscript, right? We want to make sure we add coefficients to balance our equation in the lowest whole number ratio. Okay, so there are a few more practice problems on page 7. I'm not having you do those right now. You could do those for extra practice if you want, but I want you to go to the next page, which is page 8, and this is your homework assignment, so I want to make sure you guys know how to do this. So I'll do the first one with you, and then we'll go from there. So the first one, it gives you a description of an experiment that's happening. And what you need to do is summarize that into a word equation and then a balanced chemical equation. So we want to take the fancy version here and we want to make sure we simplify that first. So it says calcium phosphate combines with. So combines with is just a fancy way of saying plus, right? Sulfuric acid to produce. So to produce is our yield sign. Calcium sulfate and phosphoric acid. So in the box underneath the description, we want to rewrite this. And it may seem a little tedious, but it helps summarize what's going on. So calcium phosphate and it's hard for me to write on my screen here with this pen I'm using. combines with, so it's just plus, so you'll just write plus on your paper, sulfuric acid, to produce, you'll just put your yield sign, calcium sulfate, and, and is just plus phosphoric acid. Okay, so that's what you guys have for your word equations. So you want to take what you have here, all right, and simplify that into a word equation. So you're going to have to remove some of the fluff or the detail and just boil it down to what are your reactants, what are your products. That's it, okay? What are your reactants, then yields, whatever your products are. You get that from reading. So a little bit of reading comprehension is really all this is. The next step is to write your formulas. Okay, so let's go through and do that real quick, and then I'll let you guys do the rest of them. So calcium phosphate is ionic, so calcium is Ca plus 2, and phosphate is PO4 minus 3. Okay, sulfuric acid, H2SO4. Calcium sulfate, calcium is Ca plus 2, sulfate SO4 minus 2, and then phosphoric acid, H3PO4. All right, so what we want to do now is put those into our chemical equation. All right, so let's go through and rewrite this so that where you're going to see balanced formula equation on your handout, on your note sheet, this is what you're going to put in that row. So calcium phosphate will end up being this, Ca3PO4 plus sulfuric acid, H2SO4, gives you calcium sulfate, CaSO4, plus phosphoric acid, H3PO4. Okay, so that's what you guys need to have on your note sheet. Oops. All right. Now you just have to go through and balance it. So I'll knock that out real quick for you here, but it doesn't give you any other states of matter or anything, so you can kind of ignore those if it doesn't give it to you. We will recognize later that these are aqueous. Most of these are actually aqueous things. A couple of them are solids, so we'll worry about that later. But right now you don't need to. So I'm going to balance this real quick. You guys can do it the longer way, but eventually you'll get fast enough where you don't need to do it that way. You'll notice that you have 3 calciums here on the left, so you need 3 calciums on the right. But then you'll go back and forth. This one's a little bit tough to balance. You'll recognize you have 2 hydrogens here on the left and 3 on the right. So anytime there's a 2 and a 3, the common multiple is 6. So what you'll actually need here, I'll change my marker color real fast. What you'll need here is a 3 here, okay, to give you 6 hydrogens, and then a 2 here to give you 6 hydrogens here. All right, and then what do you want to do? Try to balance out your other stuff. So you have sulfate right here. If you have sulfate on both sides, you can just keep it together as sulfate. That's actually a little shortcut that one of the videos maybe didn't address. So I have 3 sulfate ions here. I want to have 3 sulfate ions here, so I'm going to put a 3 there. That changed my calcium to 3, and I already have 3. I have 2 phosphates, okay, because phosphate is here, and I have 2 of them. So I'm actually done. You can put a 1 here if you want to. You don't need to, though. I like to put it there just because I like to have it filled in, but it's really not common to see that. It's really not, I mean, it's not wrong, but it's not really accepted. But I do it anyway because I like to make sure everything looks complete. Okay, so 1, 3, 3, 2 is balanced equation for that one. Okay, so that takes care of number 1. You guys only have 7 of them on that paper, so you only have 6 left to do. So give it your best shot. You want to make sure you do your word equation first, and then your balanced formula equation. If you can't balance it, like balancing is not all that hard. If you can't balance it, normally what the problem is that students write some formula wrong, like something with their nomenclature is wrong. So none of these are going to be ridiculous to balance. If you have humongous coefficients, 10s, 11s, 12s, whatever, like you just can't seem to do it, you wrote a formula wrong. That's usually 99% of the issue with this. So go back, check your formulas, and then you'll be able to balance it pretty easily, especially with this note sheet. Nothing goes up, nothing goes up into, I don't know, past probably 6. I don't even know, but nothing super ridiculous. Okay, we could go over them in class, see how you're doing, but make sure you put some solid effort into it, and we'll go from there. All right, thanks, guys.